The live stream obviously sounds like it's a very good project, and a lot of people watch that, and that's good. But I think being part of the community, like I said, getting out into community events and talking to the people in the community, person to person, you'll actually understand some of the topics that they're interested in. And you as a board member can try to voice those opinions to the other board members or whatnot, on what the community is feeling, what they want. Thank you.
Phil Loran, over the past 12 months, I guess I am a member of the board now, so I've attended all the meetings since December 3rd. From September to December 3rd, I attended about half of them. Prior to that, I would go periodically. I was not a religious attender of meetings, but I did try to keep track of what was going on. As far as improving how we work, I think that the board continues to try and make those work sessions and board meetings effective. We can always do better. I would agree that I'd like to see the material earlier, but you have to understand also that some of the material is very repetitive. You don't have to read all the material every time because it's the same material you use. It's part of the package.
Thank you.
We can hear you. Big folks say, no, we don't hear you. All right.
Multiple choice or something like that.
Yeah. Sorry, we're just, because we're going over time, we're making sure we had more time than we thought, we're making sure we asked the right questions. So this will be our last question for the evening, and then we'll have closing remarks from each of the candidates that we're going to afterwards. So this question, so what do you see as the role of the general manager within IVGID and with the Board of Trustees?
What is the role of the general manager? The role of the general manager is to manage the district, manage the personnel within the district, to carry out the policies and follow the budget that was set by the Board of Trustees. Thank you.
Hello again.
Is there a second part to the question?
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Obviously, the question once again is, what do you see as the role of general manager within IVGID and with the Board of Trustees?
I think the role as a manager for IVGID is pretty well defined. What I'd like to see instead of any changes or proposed changes to the role of general manager, I'd like to see the board more involved in terms of setting policy and making sure that things are run smoothly. We have a lot of very talented people in the community, and I think we need to tap into that more. And again, I think that the GM should have more discussions with the trustees. I think the trustees need to have a greater understanding, and I think that the GM, as well as the trustees, need to listen to the community more.
Stephen Thomason, when it comes to the role of the GM is the GM. I mean, if you have ever worked within a corporation, your general manager is your general manager. Yeah, everyone has to report up to him from the lower management levels all the way up through. I definitely understand that. I think everyone really does truly understand that he is the head. He's at the top there, and I think that definitely, like Robert was saying here, the board definitely needs to be more involved and more informed on anything and every decision that the GM has put in front of him. Whether or not he is able to make a decision on his own, I think is definitely has to go through the proper channels. And that as board members, everyone needs to be able to jump on the same page and back him, but not necessarily question his motives and what direction he's trying to go in, and making sure it's properly it properly is taking the right actions to get everything to happen in a positive way.
Judy Miller. Over time, the role of the general manager at IVGID has increased markedly. The ability to spend at a much higher level has been approved just in the last few years. I think it used to be 25,000, now I think it's 50,000, and this is something that they can do without board approval. I think that's something that may benefit the board to rethink that decision. We have some very large contracts that the general manager can approve just with the stroke of a pen, and the board doesn't necessarily have any involvement in it. This is not a corporation, and this is not certainly not a profit generating business. So what the general manager is now allowed to do is to take and spend our money, and the board has no say-so. It's quite different from a for-profit business that's funded by investors, and you know you're going to get return on your investment. We're never going to see our tax dollars again. We deserve to know how they're being spent. Thank you.
Steve King, I think we're repeating ourselves a lot. So, I mean, really, the board needs to be setting direction to the GM, and then the GM's gonna, issue the orders to the staff. So, I mean, it's a, top-down system. Thank you.
Venetia Price, I think the GM here in IVGID has a very large job in managing not just the staff, but so many different facilities. So if something's gonna burn out, like a boiler or whatever, I can't imagine getting all the board of trustees involved in that if he has the cost approved already with a limited amount. So it's a big job.
Well, we've turned the keys to the community over to our GM. We have. The board doesn't run our community, the GM does. And if he's questioned about certain things, he just figures out a way to make up a story about how the money should be spent. You give $50,000 to your kid and tell him, you don't worry about how you spend it, we don't care. I'll give you another 50 when that's out. Hey, this is your money. The board has got to oversee the general manager. We have raised questions, and we've cost employees their jobs because of our questions. One was how our money was being spent, and we found a credit card that was used by an employee at IVGID to make a personal donation to the American Cancer Society in their name on our money. Does that bother you? It bothers me. We have to hold the general manager accountable. We have to do a much better job of what is going on with our money. And if you don't, you get what you expect. Waste. Thank you.
All along short. Well, I think the role of the GM is pretty simple. He's to manage his staff and run the operations within budget. And then he needs to work hand in hand with the trustees, because we are your voice. If you're unhappy with him, or if he's not doing his job properly, then it's the people's voice to us to fire or hire a new manager. I mean, that's pretty much the basics of it. So our job is to make sure that he's managing properly and within budget.
We know this one works. Bill Duran. It's pretty clear. General manager is delegated by the board to perform the function of managing the district. He's given certain authorities that are outlined in policies, and he needs to stay within those authorities. And we need to hold him accountable for that. I don't think it's not, you can't, you're hiring good people. We have good people working for us. Mr. Pinkerton went through a long process to get hired. We have good venue managers who delegated certain responsibilities. It goes down. But we need, at the end of the day, go back and measure how those performances were conducted and whether they measured up to what our expectations were.
Pete Morris. The general manager, as our employee at the Board of Trustees, clearly follows our direction, does what we tell him to do, listens to us, sensitizes what we have to say, feeds back to us what he's heard. what he's found out, what his team has discovered. He hires the people, he manages them, and we rely upon him, currently he, to do the business of IVGID. It's up to us to make sure we put the right person in place. I think that incendiary language, like said, if you give a $50,000 to your kid, it's the same as giving a $50,000 to Steve Pinkerton. It's rather ludicrous. It's our job to make sure that we find a really highly qualified, very capable, very communicative general manager to do our bidding, that we manage him, his current circumstance, to do what we say, to do what we ask. I think his job also is to feed back to us all the things that his staff members are telling him from all of the different venues, different services that we operate. It's his job to hire really good people, which I think we certainly have, to feed back to us so that we, as a board of trustees, can make the very best decisions with your money for this community. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So that was our last question. We're going to roll into closing comments, closing remarks. Sorry. We will start with Stephen Thomason. To begin, just gotta switch it up for us for a little bit. Be about 1 minute for each of them.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank everyone for showing up. I know this is definitely takes a lot of time to get through all 10 of us here to answer these questions. Some great questions and some a little iffy questions. I think we did repeat ourselves quite a bit up here, because all of us do seem to have some great goals and some definitely different ones. I'm running because I'm definitely probably one of the younger ones here. I am a family man. I am a local business owner. My business has been in profit for the past 2.5 years. I penciled red once. That was the day I really took over it, so I had to spend a lot of money with the counties and the state to get my licensing all completely dialed in. As running a successful business here in this town, and being a member of this community and wanting to stay here and watch my children grow up here, I'm just here to help. I want to be a voice. I want to be a voice for the community. I want to be a voice for my family and for generations that are going to be coming behind me. And if you will, thank you.
Just gonna raise my hand this time. Does it work? Can you hear me? I'll shut it off. Anyway, I know it's been a long night. Thank you everyone for showing up. I'd like to start out by saying that I'd like IVGID to be more responsible to property owners, and I'm going to help make sure that happens. I have a campaign sign out there, and I put a little flyer together, and it outlines exactly my position on things, and I want you to hold my feet to the fire if I am elected, because I've seen many times trustee candidates become trustees and they completely backtrack on everything that they've committed to. And quite frankly, I'm really tired of it. There are a lot of great people on this, next to me, people I met for the first time. I don't think everyone is qualified to be a trustee. I believe I am qualified. Thank you.